Everybody seems to be down on the Gators, but we'll talk some Florida football. We got Shelton here from High Top Sports breaking down Florida football with us. Of course, SEC Media Days concluded this week. Shelton, what's going on tonight?
Not too much, man. Yeah, we had to wrap up SC Media this week. Lane Kiffin went today. He's always a blast to watch and get some tidbits from him. So I was excited to see him go. But yeah, Florida went yesterday. It was an exciting day, and excited for the season that's upcoming.
So the interesting dynamic here with Billy Napier is that he's tearing it up on the recruiting trail. It's a top 3 to 5 class right now. As you mentioned to me before we started to record, 2 commits just here in the last week, up to 21. The per player rating is obviously exceptionally high as well. On the field, 6 and 7 was kind of ugly last year. And the forecast for this season, when people put together their lack of maybe excitement over Graham Mertz with what happened last year, with the schedule, the forecasts by many aren't too favorable. So when you put all that together, the Florida fan base's level of satisfaction with Billy Napier right now.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that's being pressed right now is patience. Billy has, I think, saved face a little bit and definitely has won the mob over with the recruiting trail thus far, with how hot it's been, with being a top 3 class. And I think people are starting to kind of understand that it's going to be a process and understanding how hard the SEC is. That's been a big thing. But look, on media day, they didn't shy away from the, hey, we're going to come out and do some big things this year. And I think the excitement is going to ramp back up, as it always does in talking season, and as it always does a month before the game starts, because everyone forgets in a sense what happened last year. Now, things start going poorly again early on. Those memories will come back pretty quickly, like, oh yeah, we did suck at this. But right now, I think we're in a good place. It's the honeymoon stage again, because it's fresh, it feels new again, and he is doing well on the recruiting trail. And again, the biggest thing is patience. We had Fletcher Westphal, offensive lineman, commit. He just committed earlier in July. He was on just today on the show, and we talked about that. Look, like, is there a concern with this season? What's your prediction for this season for the Gators, even though you won't be there? He's like, to be honest with you, I'm not too concerned with what they're going to do. I understand that the SEC is tough. I understand their schedule is tough. I know what Billy's building, and that's what I'm bought into. So I think if the fans can understand that, the temperature of that should change over time.
Billy Napier came to Florida with a good reputation for recruiting, but obviously he was doing that on a much lower scale. So why do you think, because he doesn't have the track record to sell the program, why do you think he's doing so well?
I think, like what you just said, he has a great track record of recruiting. I think that class got a little sloppy at the end last year, but that class was trending pretty high up, and it's a quality class, not a quantity plus quality. For the 2023 class, it ended up being, I think, 20th, with a few guys decommitting, the Jaden Rashada situation. But it's definitely a high quality class, it's not quantity. So it was there last year. He was playing a little bit behind the 8 ball with the transfer portal, with NIL being introduced, it being his first season. And he talked about that during SEC Media Day, where his to-do list is much shorter this time go around than it was last year. Last year, this time, I've mentioned this plenty of times on our show, we were starting to land the big commits. We were nowhere near the amount of commits we are now. We've already beaten last year's class in recruiting now. So that just kind of shows that he's turned things on, and I think that's what he was brought in to do. He mentioned in an interview with Josh Pate, he loves recruiting, and I think he's proven that.
With the glut of information that's out there and the glut of communication and conversation through social media, that may have worked in his favor concerning the Jaden Rashada situation, because he obviously had nothing to do with that. However, he is the head coach of the program. It was a bit of a debacle. It could have gone sideways. It could have lingered on. It could have been a bad look for the program, but that obviously did not stick. People were able to, and players, most importantly, were able to distinguish the difference.
Yeah, look, it's the new thing, and all news is good news, right? So that was something we talked about. I'm close with the Florida Victorious. It was the Gator Collective at one point, that they have now exchanged hands and have changed and have rebranded completely to the Florida Victorious after the debacle happened. So they moved pretty quickly. Like, look, we got to do a complete rebranding. We can't be associated with what happened anymore. So everyone moved pretty quickly and moved right through it. And it came through and it went. I think, like you said, they realized Coach Billy didn't really have much to do with it. It is what it is, and they moved on. Kids want to play, and they want to be part of a successful program, and they want to play for somebody who cares about them. And I think Billy has implemented that across this recruiting class for sure.
Talking up the Gators with High Top Sports. We got Shelton here. Check out the work right here on YouTube. You see the Twitter handle there as well. So you alluded to the Jason Marshall comment. So the defensive back basically used an old phrase that's probably first was heard out of the mouth of Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali. We're going to shock the world.
Yes.
So not much expected there, but that's certainly out of most people about Florida football, I'm speaking. But he shocked some people, threw some people, to their phones to respond, of course, from the other fan bases.
Yeah, look, I think, unfortunately, it's just like anything. The terminology "goat" or "we're going to shock the world." We've got a chip on our shoulder. They're definitely outplayed, right? So when you hear it, it doesn't have the same impact as it once did. But I think if you go back and you watch the interview with JD Pickle from On3, again, he says it with conviction. It's not like he's kind of just saying it because he feels like he should be saying it. And look, if I was an opposing fan base, I would take it and run with it. I would laugh, I would joke, I would do whatever you had to do. That's the point. That's what they're saying. They have a chip on the shoulder. Everybody's questioning them. Everybody's doubting them. But it's the same reason why people ask me to predict the games. There's a reason why you play the games. Anything can happen. I understand what the favors and the underdogs and all that stuff, but there's a reason why you play the games. There's a reason why you have upsets. You can shock the world sometimes. So I love it. I'm bought in. Obviously, being a Gator fan, how can you not? I love the energy. I love the mindset, and I think you gotta have to have that mindset going into the season. What else are you gonna do?
I'm going to give you a stat, Shelton, that you may want to take back to the Gator fan base that may increase the optimism a little bit more. So it dawned on me 5 or 6 years ago that the preseason publications are by and large way too conservative. They basically just pencil in the same teams all the time. I think my philosophy is that they don't want to look bad. So Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia are going to the playoff, and somebody else, Clemson. And it just repeats over and over and over, and then they slightly tweak it. And the records of the teams, the record predictions are basically only 1, maybe 2 games different than the previous season in terms of their predictions. So I thought, is this real? Is this the truth? Well, the truth basically is that upper echelon stays the same, but everybody else is in flux. And of course, Florida's got an elite past, but they're not currently an elite. So here's what I've been tracking for 5 or 6 years, is that if you go from season to season and you count the number of Power 5 teams that either increase by at least 3 wins per season from the previous season or have a decrease by at least 3 games, that number is usually about 18 to 22 out of the 65 Power 5. So now when I ask guys like you, how many teams do you think have that kind of increase from like 6-6, like Florida was last year in the regular season, to 9-3? The guess I usually get is about 8 teams, 10 teams. No, it's 27 last year, just in the Power 5. Just in the Power 5.
Wow, that went from 6-6 to 9-3 last year.
That had a 3-game increase or decrease.
Oh, okay. Either way,
significant change in their record.
Very interesting. I think you kind of nailed it on the head with the upper echelon not changing too much. But again, if you go back and look, 6 and down, it's a complete facelift every year. Teams come out of nowhere, do big things. I mean, LSU was gone for a little bit, and then they had a big explosion. Tennessee was up there. Kentucky was supposed to be up there. They were up there for a little bit. And that's something that I've been very optimistic about too. Just if you go look at the SEC East, outside of Georgia, it's pretty open for business, in my opinion. I think Tennessee's got a new quarterback. He's young. Kentucky, they've got a new quarterback. Everybody's sitting in the same boat to a certain extent that we are. The difference is they have more success than we did last year. They've got a few more guys coming back that Florida may not have. We had a little more of people leave in the portal that we had to go clean up. But all in all, I'm bought into what Billy Napier is able to do, and I'm excited to see what it's going to do. We've got a new defensive coordinator in Austin Armstrong. Really excited to see what he's going to do. From South Carolina, had his defense nicknamed the Nasty Bunch. We lost 5 games last year within 1 score. 1 score could be, how many 3rd and 11s did Florida's defense let up last year? We get 3 stops a game, 3 more extra stops a game. There's your point. There's your 5-7 points that we were talking about.
Graham Mertz is a guy that I'm sure you've heard more than I have, that a lot of people aren't that excited about outside of the Florida fan base. I have a few different theories if we want to look at the cup half full as to why he might be better than people expect. For one thing, he's a former 5-star. So there's not a whole lot of those guys around, number one. Number two is that while he was supported by a big running game, and so the conventional thought is, well, if he couldn't even be good with a great running game, then how good is he? Well, when you're handing the ball off on 1st and 2nd down almost every series, then when you're throwing the ball, everybody knows you're throwing the ball. Like, there is little 1st down throws in the Wisconsin passing attack. So it's kind of a difficult situation to operate from that place.
Yeah, no, that's a big one, I think. And so the caveat to that and playing devil's advocate for Florida here is the Florida's game plan seems to be to run the ball a lot too. So that's where the negativity also comes. It's like, well, like what you just said, that's what he was doing in Wisconsin. How is he going to bode in Florida when they're going to be doing the same thing? But look, I think it's how the play call is ran. I think it's how creative that you can get. And last year, it was interesting with Anthony Richardson. He's extremely athletic. I think he's extremely talented. It just felt like we were trying to play catch up the entire time. So, look, I'm excited about Graham Mertz. I mean, you have to be. He's going to be the starting quarterback. I know Billy tried to play it off like it's still a competition. I don't think that it is. I think he's just playing to the media. I think he's learned from Saban and the likes of Kirby's of we've got to play the game a little bit. I definitely think it's going to be Graham. But like you mentioned, he was a highly talented recruit coming out of high school. He is no slouch by any stretch, or was not anyways. And I still think there's some talent left to be used, and he has 32 starts under his belt, something that Anthony did not have last year. And 32 starts, I've been preaching it on our NFL show, talking about what Anthony, the struggles he's going to have. Is 32 starts, you learn a lot when you have 32 starts under your belt. You learn to understand the game, certain times, certain possessions, and you're able to manage those parts of the games a lot better. So we'll have that back there. We'll have more of a veteran presence than Anthony was. And that's not a shot towards Anthony. That's just fact. So those things excite me.
All right, Shelton's here, High Top Sports, and check it out right here on YouTube, and you see the Twitter handle there as well. Shelton, we appreciate you stopping by and breaking down the Gators for us.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you guys, and go Gators.